She never expected a single knock at the door to change the rhythm of her entire day, yet that is exactly what happened the moment she heard it echo through her quiet hallway. From the very first second, something about that knock felt unusual, gentler than normal, hesitant even. And as she walked toward the door, she sensed a weight sitting in her chest, the kind that appears when life is about to reveal a truth you didn't know you were carrying. Her name was Liana, and despite her calm face and steady voice, she had grown skilled at hiding the strain beneath her routines. Between caring for her home, keeping up with work, and managing a long stretch of worry she could never quite put into words, she had become really good at pretending everything was fine. But that day, the pretense wavered. When she opened the door, she found her neighbor, Haroon, standing on the porch holding a small toolbox. She thanked him and stepped aside so he could work. He focused fully on the porch light. No lingering glances, no awkward pauses, just straightforward concentration. She appreciated that. The world felt clearer, simpler, when kindness arrived without complication. The winter air brushed against her sleeves as she watched him tighten the new bulb in place. The gentle clinking of metal and soft hum of the street settled around them, calm and undemanding. But when he stepped off the small stool and turned slightly toward her, his expression shifted. Not with anything inappropriate, only the kind of mild concern any decent person might have for someone they've known a long time. "You're all right today?" he asked in a steady, respectful tone. "You look a little tired." She blinked. She wasn't offended. Haroon never spoke out of turn. If anything, his simple question felt startling because it hit the very thing she had tried to hide for weeks. Tired wasn't the right word, though. She had been overwhelmed, stretched thin, carrying a quiet worry she told no one about, not even her husband, Kareem, because she didn't want to add more to his already full schedule. She forced a small laugh, hoping it would brush the moment away. "Just didn't sleep much last night," she replied. He didn't press further, which she appreciated. Haroon packed his tools neatly, stepped back, and tested the new bulb. The warm glow lit the porch beautifully. "That should hold for a long while," he said. "If anything else acts up, just call. I'm usually around in the evenings." She thanked him again, sincerely this time. The simple act of someone noticing her struggle, even lightly, even accidentally, felt unfamiliar. It was strange how a small moment could uncover a truth she had been neglecting. She was pushing herself too hard. Before leaving, Haroon paused only long enough to offer a courteous nod. "Take care of yourself, all right? Everyone needs a break sometimes." His voice held no emotional pull, no hidden meaning, just the plain sincerity of neighborly concern. And somehow, that sincerity struck deeper than she expected. When she returned inside, she closed the door gently behind her and stood still for a moment. The house felt different now, quieter, as though the air itself wanted her to pay attention to the ache she had been ignoring. Her husband Kareem would be returning from work late that evening, and she already knew he'd ask how her day had been. For the first time in a long time, she considered telling him the truth. Near the end of the hallway, she caught her reflection in the mirror. Her own eyes surprised her. Tired, yes, but also softened, as though finally admitting she needed help. A breath escaped her chest, slow and uncertain. Maybe this was the moment life was nudging her toward honesty. Maybe this was the day everything quietly shifted. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Just as she reached for the kitchen light, her phone buzzed with a message that made her pause, and the sight of the sender's name made her pulse quicken with worry for a completely different reason. The message glowing on Liana's phone came from her younger sister, Amina. The moment she saw the name, a familiar pinch of worry tugged at her chest. Amina rarely texted during the day unless something felt heavy on her end. "Can we talk later? It's important." That was all the message said. No details, no hint of what it could be about, and knowing her sister's gentle nature, Liana understood that even writing those few words must have taken courage. She set the phone down slowly, letting the room settle around her. The quiet hum of the heater, the faint clatter of branches brushing the window, the distant sound of a child playing somewhere down the street. They all blended into a soft reminder that life kept moving even when worries tried to tighten the air. She took a seat at the kitchen table, resting her hands around a warm cup of tea she'd almost forgotten she'd made earlier. As the steam rose, she tried to calm her thoughts, but another image pushed forward, Haroon adjusting the porch light, noticing what she thought no one could. She wasn't unsettled by the memory, only surprised by how much the simple question had stayed with her. Not because of who asked it, but because it reminded her how long she had gone without truly checking in on herself. Her husband, Kareem, arrived home later in the evening. He stepped inside with a tired but warm smile, the kind he saved just for their quiet moments. "You ate anything yet?" he asked as he placed his bag on the side table. "A little," she said. "You?" "I grabbed something at work. Long day." His tone held no frustration, only the honest fatigue that came after many hours of responsibility. They moved around the kitchen together, exchanging small updates about their day. Nothing dramatic, nothing heavy. It was the easy routine of a married couple who cared for each other through simple acts: checking the stove, warming leftover bread, refilling the water pitcher. But Liana found her thoughts drifting toward the truth she had avoided telling him, that she had been moving through her days like a candle burning at both ends. At one point, Kareem paused near the counter and looked at her more carefully. "You're quieter today. Everything all right?" She met his gaze. His eyes held only concern, steady, loyal, the kind that never demanded answers, but always made space for them. "I'm just tired," she said softly. "It's been a long week." He nodded, accepting her words without pressure. "Then rest tonight. I'll handle the dishes." As he moved to the sink, she watched him with a quiet swell of gratitude. They were not a dramatic couple. They didn't need big declarations or elaborate gestures. Their bond lived in these small corners of the day, in the simple way he noticed her, even when she didn't explain much. Later that night, after Kareem fell asleep beside her, Liana lay awake staring at the faint patterns of moonlight washing across the ceiling. Amina's message replayed in her mind. "It's important." Her sister had been through many ups and downs the past year, new responsibilities, new uncertainties. Liana had always tried to be her support, though recently she felt she had been doing a poor job of that. Life had been too loud, too demanding. As the hours passed quietly, she made a promise to herself. Tomorrow, she would check on Amina first thing. She would listen without rushing. She would show up as the sister she had always tried to be. Morning arrived with soft light filtering through the curtains. Liana prepared breakfast, set aside food for Kareem, and tidied the living room before calling her sister. Amina answered on the second ring, her voice small but steady. "Is everything all right?" Liana asked gently. There was a pause long enough to prick at her nerves. "I just need to talk to you about something," Amina said. "I didn't want to worry you, but I can't stop thinking about it." Liana's heart tightened with protective instinct. Not fear, not panic, just the natural concern of someone who deeply cared. "Tell me," she whispered. Another small pause. "It's about something someone noticed," Amina said. "Something I think I should have seen myself." Liana sat down slowly, her breath catching in a quiet, uncertain stillness. Because the moment Amina said those words, it echoed too closely to what had happened on her own porch the day before. A strange connection formed in her mind, a thread she didn't yet understand. And as her sister finally began to explain, Liana felt the first hint of an unexpected truth rising ahead, waiting to change the direction of both their days. Amina's voice trembled only slightly as she began speaking, but Liana heard the strain behind every word. It wasn't fear, and it wasn't panic, just a quiet burden someone had been carrying alone for too long. "I've been feeling off for a while," Amina said. "Not sick exactly, just not like myself. I thought it would get better, but yesterday someone at work mentioned I looked pale and tired. It caught me off guard." Liana pressed her hand gently against her forehead, listening closely. "Did you talk to a doctor?" "I did this morning," Amina whispered, "and they ran a few basic tests. Nothing dangerous, they said. just something I need to take care of before it becomes a bigger issue. But hearing someone else notice it first made me realize how much I've been ignoring. Liana felt a soft ache in her chest. Not worry, but recognition. A mirror of her own behavior. These quiet, invisible weights women carried through their days, pretending they weren't there, hoping no one would see.
"I'm glad you checked," Liana said. "And I'm here to help. Just tell me what you need." Her sister exhaled, relief loosening her voice. "I will. I just didn't want you to think I was being dramatic." "You're never dramatic," Liana replied firmly. "You're human." She meant those words deeply. They weren't dramatic either. They were simply true. When the call ended, Liana remained seated for a long moment, absorbing everything. It struck her how easily people dismissed their own needs until someone else pointed them out. Just yesterday, it had been Haroon noticing her fatigue without meaning anything beyond simple concern. Today, it was Amina facing the same quiet realization. Liana stood, went to the window, and watched the neighborhood outside. The weather was calm, the sky soft with late morning light. Children's voices floated from somewhere down the block. A delivery truck rolled gently past. The world looked peaceful, yet inside she felt something shifting, like the beginning of a small but steady transformation. She spent the next few hours cleaning, preparing lunch, and organizing a list of tasks she had been avoiding, not to overwhelm herself, but to finally acknowledge what needed attention. She didn't want to keep running on empty. Later in the afternoon, she stepped out to check the new porch light. It glowed steadily, warm and dependable. She appreciated the simplicity of it. Something fixed, something working as it should. As she turned to go back inside, she heard footsteps behind her. Haroon was walking down the sidewalk toward his own house, carrying a bag of groceries. His expression was neutral and friendly, the same as always. "Light still holding up?" he asked casually. "Yes, it's perfect. Thank you again," she replied in a calm, steady tone. "That's good. Just wanted to make sure," he said with a nod. "Let me know if anything else needs fixing." Their exchange was quick, ordinary, and respectful. Simply two neighbors acknowledging a favor done and repaid with gratitude. Nothing more needed to be said. Back inside, Liana brewed tea and called Kareem to see how his day was going. He answered with his usual warmth, and she felt a small comfort hearing his voice. "I think I'm going to take it easy tonight," she told him. "That's a good idea," he said supportively. "You've been pushing yourself too hard." A gentle warmth spread through her chest at his understanding. Her marriage had always been built on steady, practical kindness. It grounded her, steadied her, reminded her she never needed to carry everything alone. Evening settled quietly over the house. The lights glowed softly through the living room, casting warm patterns across the furniture. The silence felt different tonight, not heavy, but peaceful. Before dinner, Liana sat on the couch and opened her planner. For the first time in weeks, she wrote down things she needed, not chores, not obligations, just personal needs she had avoided acknowledging. Rest, a checkup, more time with family, breathing room. As she closed the planner, something inside her felt lighter. She was still tired, still overwhelmed in places, but now she was aware in a way she hadn't been before. Just as she reached for the remote to turn on the evening news, her phone buzzed again. This time, the message wasn't from Amina, but from someone she hadn't heard from in a long while, a name she did not expect to see today. And as she stared at the screen, a soft but unmistakable unease settled deep within her chest. The name glowing on Liana's screen belonged to her cousin, Rasha. They had grown up close, almost like sisters, but life had slowly tugged them in different directions over the years. Messages from her were rare, never unfriendly, just infrequent, the kind that usually came only when something meaningful was happening. "Can we talk? I need to tell you something important." The similarity to Amina's words earlier that morning made Liana pause. It wasn't fear that stirred inside her, more a careful alertness, the kind that rises when the day begins revealing patterns you didn't expect. She sat down on the couch, pulling a soft blanket around her shoulders before calling. Rasha answered immediately. "I'm so relieved you called," her cousin said, her tone steady but clearly carrying a weight. I didn't want to bother you, but I didn't know who else to talk to without it becoming a whole thing. You're never a bother, Liana replied gently. What's going on? Rasha hesitated long enough for Liana to hear the faint sounds of her cousin pacing, steps echoing lightly, a cupboard closing somewhere in the background. It's something that happened yesterday, Rasha whispered. Someone at the community center mentioned something about me. Something small, really, but it caught me off guard. And the strange thing is, I didn't notice it myself. Liana's breath slowed. It was happening again. That same thread weaving through the day. What did they notice? She asked softly. Rasha let out a slow, uneven exhale. They said I looked like I've been carrying too much, that I seemed worn out. I didn't expect anyone to notice. I thought I had been hiding it well. For a moment, Liana closed her eyes. The porch light yesterday. Amina earlier that morning. Now her cousin. 3 moments, all pointing toward the same truth. Everyone was walking around carrying quiet burdens they thought were invisible, until someone unexpectedly saw them. She listened as Rasha explained how she had been overwhelmed with work and caring for her ill father, barely taking any breaks. She had brushed aside her own needs again and again, believing they didn't matter as long as she kept moving. Liana didn't interrupt. She simply listened, steady and present.
You're not alone, she said when Rasha finished, and you don't have to prove anything. Even strong people need rest. Rasha's voice softened. Thank you. I think I needed someone to say that out loud. They talked a little longer, making gentle plans to meet sometime soon. When the call ended, Liana remained still for a long moment, absorbing the quiet truth of the day. 3 people had confided in her. 3 people had admitted they were tired. 3 people who rarely opened up had reached out. But the strangest part? All of it happened right after someone noticed her tiredness first. As evening settled deeper into the house, Liana prepared a simple dinner. Kareem arrived home not long after, his expression tired yet warm. Long day? She asked as she handed him a glass of water. Busy, he replied, but seeing you helps reset everything. The tenderness of his tone, gentle, familiar, rooted in years of partnership, made her feel safe enough to do something she had avoided for too long. She finally told him. Not everything, not all at once, but enough for him to understand that she had been stretched thin, carrying more responsibilities than she admitted. Kareem listened without interrupting. His face did not tighten with worry or frustration. Instead, his posture softened with steady patience. You don't have to hide this from me, he said quietly. We can handle these things together. His words were simple, ordinary, but they rested in her heart with a relieving weight. After dinner, while Kareem cleaned the dishes, Liana sipped out onto the porch to breathe the cool night air. The new light glowed softly above her, warm and steady, an unexpected symbol for the past couple of days. She leaned against the railing, watching the quiet neighborhood wind down. A dog barked in the distance. Somewhere, someone closed a gate. A car drove slowly by. Life was continuing in its gentle, ordinary way. Then her phone buzzed again. A 4th message. Another unexpected name. Another person reaching out. Her breath caught, not in fear, but in a deep, settling curiosity. Because it no longer felt random. It felt like something was unfolding around her, something she hadn't yet understood. And the message sitting on her screen held the next clue. The name on Liana's screen this time belonged to her old school friend, Sophia, someone she cared about deeply yet hadn't spoken to in months. Their friendship had always been warm and uncomplicated, built on shared memories rather than daily closeness. Messages from her were rare, but always sincere. I know it's late, but I really need to talk if you're awake. Liana inhaled slowly, bracing herself, not out of fear, but because the pattern of the day had become impossible to ignore. One person noticing her tiredness yesterday had somehow led to 3 different people opening up to her today,
and now possibly a fourth.
She sat down on the porch step and called Sophia. Her friend answered with a shaky but hopeful voice. "Liana, thank you. I wasn't sure if you'd be busy." "I'm here," Liana said softly. "What's happening?" Sophia took a moment before responding. Liana could almost imagine her sitting on the edge of her own bed, fingers twisting nervously around the phone cord or blanket. "I didn't want to keep this inside anymore," Sophia finally said. "Someone told me today that I seemed distant. They weren't being rude, just concerned." She gave a small, embarrassed laugh. "I didn't realize it showed." Liana's chest tightened at the familiarity of it. "You've been overwhelmed?" Sophia's voice wavered, not out of emotional closeness, but simple human honesty. "Yes, work has been piling up, and I've been helping my mother more lately. I thought I was handling it, but the fact that someone noticed before I admitted it to myself, it surprised me." A breeze drifted across the porch, carrying the faint scent of night flowers blooming somewhere nearby. Liana wrapped her cardigan a little tighter around herself. "It's strange," Sophia continued. "I felt fine until they said something. Then suddenly I felt everything at once." Liana listened, steady and patient. "Sometimes we don't understand how tired we've become until someone gently points it out." Sophia sniffed lightly. "Maybe so, but hearing your voice helps. I just needed someone who wouldn't judge me." "You're not alone," Liana said. "You're doing your best, and it's okay to rest, too." Sophia exhaled, the sound easing slowly. "Thank you, really." When the call ended, Liana remained sitting on the porch, her phone in her lap. The street was quiet now, just the soft hum of distant traffic and the warm glow of porch lights scattered along the houses. Something inside her shifted into clarity. 4 people had reached out to her in one day. 4 people who thought she would understand. 4 people who had been quietly struggling, just as she had been. Perhaps it wasn't coincidence at all. Perhaps noticing her own exhaustion, truly seeing it, had opened her heart in a way others instinctively felt. Maybe her moment of honesty with herself had created a quiet space that made her more approachable, more gentle, more open. And maybe everyone around her had simply needed a safe moment to pause. She spent several minutes watching the new porch light glow against the night sky. That small bulb, replaced by a neighbor without meaning anything beyond simple help, had somehow become the beginning of a ripple she never expected. When she stood and stepped back inside, Kareem was finishing dishes. He dried his hands and looked at her with steady concern. "You okay?" he asked. She smiled softly. "Yes, I think I am. It's been a long day, but a meaningful one." Kareem nodded, accepting that answer with quiet trust. "Come rest. We can talk more tomorrow." And she did. They sat together in the living room for a while. No dramatic conversations, no heavy emotions, just the peaceful routine of a married couple ending a long day. The warmth of his presence reassured her that she didn't need to face anything alone. Later, once the house grew silent and the lights dimmed, Liana lay awake for a few moments reflecting on everything that had happened. It felt as though life had given her a gentle reminder. People notice more than we think. People feel more than they show. And sometimes acknowledging our own burdens becomes the unexpected doorway to understanding the burdens of others. The truth she discovered over the past 2 days wasn't loud or dramatic. It was small, quiet, human, and it changed her. From that day on, she promised herself to move a little slower, breathe a little deeper, listen more closely, not just to those around her, but to her own tired heart that had gone unnoticed for far too long. As she finally drifted toward sleep, warm under the soft glow of the bedside lamp, she felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. A calm, steady sense of peace. A gentle certainty that she was no longer carrying everything alone. And the quiet hope that tomorrow would begin with a little more light, inside and out.